What is up, everybody? Welcome into the Zone Heads podcast. I am Brandon Kravitz, your host on this magic carpet ride as we dive in to the top quarterbacks this year in fantasy football. Quick reminder, shout out for our sponsor, Kevin Crager, our go-to real estate agent, one of the top 25 producing agents in Central Florida. Kevin doesn't just unlock doors, he brings a deep knowledge base, market trends, the latest home buyer programs, cutting edge technology, and all of that. So if you want an agent that's more than just an agent, you want a trusted guide who knows homes in and out in Central Florida, call Kevin Crager with LPT Realty today. Number scrolling at the bottom of the screen if you're watching the video feed. If not, it's 407-702-4635. Go ahead and give him a call today. Bit by bit, the news trickling out on what is happening next for In the Zone. Things don't always move at the pace that I would like, but New Year's resolution, trying to be more patient, so I'm just rolling with it. Tyler did announce that he was leaving In the Zone a couple of weeks ago, and a decision that I completely support. I think it's what's best for him and his professional life, and he and I will remain great friends throughout what is next. And last week he spoke about where he's headed to after this, the Orlando Solar Bears. He's going to work in their ticket sales department. So if you need a suite at a Bears game, wait until our guy is on board and then buy it through him so that we can support one of our very own. We are at 98.5% of what is next on the live show In the Zone on 96.9 The Game. So stay tuned for that. I'm going to give you that info as soon as I am able to. A lot still being worked out on the back end of the operation, and we'll have that settled. I'm going on vacation next week. My wife and I are headed to Chicago, going to Wrigley Field and touring the city, eating some of the deep dish pizza and all of that. So I'm excited to bring back some of that news and some of the things that we fell in love with when we come back. But it'll be a week off next week. I'm still going to post an episode next week, but we're going on the back end of that next week. 40-year-old birthday present. So my wife really brought it with this one. And after that is when we should definitely be able to roll out some news, if not prior to that, in terms of what's going on In the Zone. I've had a lot of requests lately for fantasy football talk on the live show. Obviously, we're talking about that plenty here. You could go back to the last 2 weeks, wide receivers and running backs, if you want to get that info of my top 12 at both of those positions. Feel pretty good about the lists that I doled out here on this podcast channel. And then whenever I'm done with the full position grouping, so we're quarterbacks today, I'll dig into that in a minute. Running backs, wide receivers already done, and then tight ends, going to wrap it up. We're not going to do kickers and defenses. Sorry. I'm going to get all of these posted in written form on zoneheadsmedia.com. So make sure you go ahead and bookmark that. And then you can have all of that in one nice, neat place before you head into your drafts. If this is information that you find valuable, to me, this is half the fun right here. Rankings, highlights, stats, digging into who I like, who I don't want on my roster. Then it kind of peaks between the draft and the first couple of weeks of the NFL season. And after that, you just hope that your season isn't a complete disaster. But this, to me, is where the fun really starts for fantasy football. So I love this stuff. Hopefully some news coming in regards to the Zoneheads fantasy football draft as well. We're definitely going to have a league. We know that. That's locked in. And so hopefully we're able to get as many of you into that as possible. We have 20, we're up to now 28 entries per season with the two leagues that we put together for our Zone Heads drafts. We're just waiting to finalize that location, and that's also info. I have a lot that I'm waiting on to be able to talk to you guys about. So sorry for the waiting game, but we're getting there, and hopefully we get there sooner rather than later. But let's dive into it. The quarterback position, the position that separates the pros from the Joes in fantasy drafts. You know someone is newer to the game when they take one of these guys in round one. It's even a little bit rich in round two, but back end of the second round, early round three, that's the earliest that you should take a quarterback. Mid round three, really the sweet spot for the top guys at the position. After that, it's a waiting game. Drafting a quarterback is like playing a game of chicken, just trying to see, can you beat out the other guys that are in a draft with you? And it's not because it's not a position of value. Having a great quarterback in fantasy is huge. It's because there's so many out there that produce at a big level. The drop off from quarterback 10 to quarterback 20 is about 2 points per game. That's marginal. It's just not that extreme. And every year we have a guy that's drafted outside of the top 7 or the top 8 who booms. Baker Mayfield, quarterback 3 in points per game last year. Jared Goff, Jayden Daniels, absolute stars at the position. These were not top picks at quarterback last year. And this happens every single year at the quarterback position. I look back at last year's ADP: Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, CJ Stroud, Anthony Richardson, in that order. 3 of those 6 were complete busts if you overdrafted them. CJ Stroud, Anthony Richardson, and the great Patrick Mahomes did not live up to anything close to their draft capital. When you compare that to the top running backs that were taken last year, the top wide receivers, yes, there's still injuries, but there's a lot less volatility. I think there's a lot less volatility in terms of quality of play, which is one of the big differences. Sometimes these quarterbacks don't hit because they're just not very good. CJ Stroud wasn't hurt. He just dropped off a little bit. It is a guessing game sometimes, and that's why it's best to wait or to draft a sure thing. A sure thing. So let's dig in, see if we can find some sure things and some values along the way. We will start with Lamar Jackson at number 1. No quarterback in the NFL possesses the upside and the consistency of greatness that Lamar does. And what's wild is that it still feels like he has higher to climb. It doesn't even feel like we've seen his best season yet. And we're talking about a 2-time MVP, second season with the same offensive coordinator in Todd Monken, more of an investment into the wide receiver position. DeAndre Hopkins coming in. He's not the guy that he was, but it still helps. Lamar had his career high in passing touchdowns last year too. So I like the improvement as a passer, and we know what he can do as a runner. 4,000 yards passing and 1,000 yards rushing. Nobody else in the league can do that. He can. He's number 1. Number 2 is Jayden Daniels. So if anybody else can do it, it's probably this guy. Daniels was quarterback 5 as a rookie, and none of it looked fluky to me. The quick release, the decision-making under duress, the running ability, and his ability to protect himself from taking big hits. He's got a slight frame, but I feel like he's got a little Russell Wilson in him and that he knows how to manage that in games. They added Deebo Samuel. They added Laramie Tunsil on the offensive line. I have already placed a bet on him to win NFL MVP at 7-1. I think he is going to put together a very special second season in the NFL. So I'm willing to take him over Josh Allen, though that is not an easy decision to make. At number 3, you guessed it. It's Josh Allen, the easiest number 3 you could come up with. He is the most consistent and reliable quarterback that you're going to find in fantasy football. Plain and simple. Top 5 finish every single year since 2020. But last year was the worst of all of them. Mind you, it was QB5, but still the lack of weaponry does concern me just enough to put him down to 3. But I'm good in taking any of these guys, any of these first 3, Lamar, Jayden Daniels, Josh Allen. As long as it's not in round 1 or early round 2, I'm totally fine with reaching on these guys because I think the consistency and the upside is all there. I have bigger question marks about the rest of the list, and that starts with number 4, Joe Burrow, who right before hitting record, I swapped from 5 to 4 with Jalen Hurts because the more I look at these numbers, the more I look into what I'm expecting from this season, the more excited I get about Burrow and the colder I get on Jalen Hurts, though I love both of them. Burrow has quarterback 1 upside. He's the best pure passer in the sport. He's got the number 1 wide receiver in the game, and his defense is terrible. This is a great recipe for fantasy success. The issue is Joe Burrow's health. He has missed 7 games. He missed 7 games 2 years ago. He missed 7 games as a rookie. We've seen him tough it out at times and just not be the same guy on the field. Outside of that, there's really nothing not to like about him. He's going to give you several weeks where he is winning you that week and potentially even winning you a championship if he's able to stay healthy and all the guys around him are still doing what they do. If you're the stacking type as well, pairing him with Jamar Chase or T. Higgins, as good as it gets. Number 5 is Jalen Hurts. Hurts is amazing. He's tough. He's durable. He's a touchdown vulture at the goal line. They didn't repeal the tush push, so you're still going to have those easy touchdowns down by the goal line. He just doesn't throw that much, and so that's something that you have to live with. And game script wise, this could really work against you in fantasy because this team is really, really good. And when they get leads, they're not going to throw the ball. They're going to salt the clock away with Saquon Barkley and and maybe a little bit of Jalen Hurts running, but some of these factors just hold him back from being a legitimate contender for quarterback one. So as good as he is at what he does, he checks the reliability box and he's got an elite supporting cast around him. I think he's got a very specific ceiling, still higher than most, but a very specific ceiling. I have him at 5. At number 6, Patrick Mahomes. And this is simply out of respect. He should honestly be even lower on this list, but I just respect what this man has accomplished throughout his career, and it's not just the Super Bowls. Statistically, he's been a monster. For most of his career, he's been the most reliable fantasy quarterback, maybe outside of Josh Allen. In 2018, he was quarterback one by well over 100 points. So not only can this guy be number one, he can blow out the rest of the field when he's hitting that at peak level. I mean, he is the cream of the crop at what he does. And when this Chiefs offense is at its best, Andy Reid cooks up a better offense than any other coach in the NFL. The problem is that they're just not peaking right now. Last year, they dealt with a lot of injuries to the wide receiver position. The O-line is not as good as it used to be, and they're not great at running the football. Defensive coordinators have figured out that you can go sell out with two safeties, shell high. Mahomes can't beat us with the deep ball, and it's just created an environment where he's so good, he can still win games and not put up these gaudy numbers. He was quarterback 11 last year, and they were amazing. His efficiency was down. His touchdown rate was down. His deep ball accuracy was down. I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt, but you cannot reach for Patrick Mahomes. I know the name is great, and it's always going to look appealing sitting there on the draft board. It's just not a smart idea. I'm still willing to give him the respect at 6. At number 7, this is the flip side to the Mahomes conversation with Baker Mayfield. He is doing Mahomes type things statistically, at least the Mahomes that we were used to. His wide receivers are some of the best. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, they continue to invest in that. Emeka Ibuka in the draft. Godwin should be back and healthy as well. It just feels tough to trust because Baker was so bad for so many years, but they've got things humming in Tampa. Only Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson scored more fantasy points than Baker Mayfield last year, so I cannot put him any lower than 7 on the list. Number 8 is Kyler Murray. Upside stability. We're kind of, playing this ping pong game with these quarterbacks. As I mentioned, the quarterback position is a dance in fantasy football, and this is where I'm willing to take a chance. We've seen some fantasy brilliance from Kyler Murray, and we've also seen him crash and burn when he's on the field. We've seen him get hurt, but skill set wise, there just aren't many players at the position that can do what he does. In fact, I think there's 2 of them: Lamar Jackson, Jayden Daniels. End of list. Kyler Murray is like the dysfunctional version of those 2 players. But if you compare him with a safer option down the board, I think it's worth the risk because of his elite running and passing ability, something that he can put together that others can't. And if he does that, if he does put that together for a whole season and Marvin Harrison Jr. becomes that elite number 1 wide receiver that they drafted him to be, he has legitimate quarterback 1 potential. Number 9, Dak Prescott. People are sleeping on Dak this season, and I absolutely love it. This is my most drafted quarterback so far this season, and it's only July. Dak was quarterback 2 in 2023 because of the shaky run game with Dallas, because they had a bad defense. So much was on his plate to carry the team. Well, the defense still has question marks, and Miles Sanders is their starting running back. So I think we're kind of right back into the same boat. And to make matters even more appealing, they added George Pickens, who will be the best number 2 that CeeDee Lamb has played next to. I think Dak has crazy upside. And right now you can get him as quarterback 14 in drafts. I've got him personally 5 spots higher than that. So I'm going to end up with a lot of Dak Prescott. Caleb Williams is number 10. Back to the upside claim. Caleb was drafted number 1 overall in the real NFL draft for a reason. And not just drafted number 1 overall, but drafted number 1 overall in a loaded 2024 quarterback class. He struggled year 1. He was not fantasy viable, but he was a rookie, and not everybody puts it together right away. I think we're talking about a great post-hype sleeper in Caleb Williams. His offensive line was upgraded by the tune of $67 million. They hired Ben Johnson, whiz kid offensively, and they continued to pour resources into the wide receiver and tight end position, drafting Luther Burden and Colston Loveland. Caleb has a chance to take a major leap this year, and he's the kind of player I'd rather be early to the party on than late to it. Number 11, Jared Goff. No one in your league is going to react when you draft Jared Goff. Just know that. But you will be taking the most efficient and productive, the quarterback and the most efficient and productive offense in the NFL. Quarterback 7 and quarterback 4 each of the last 2 seasons. You just know exactly what you're getting from Goff at this point. He doesn't miss any time. The offense is great. It's not going anywhere. He is a great set it and forget it kind of quarterback, and he's going to give you some extreme spike weeks. I mean, this guy was scoring into the 60s at one point last season in those high scoring games they had in Detroit. Number 12, rounding out the list, is Justin Herbert. Still looks the part when you watch him play, but he has not been a fantasy star for a few years now. So I'm sort of putting him in that Mahomes category where the eye test tells me you're still very good at what you do, but the numbers don't jump off the page. He is still uber talented, though, and he does have a quarterback one finish to his name. 2021, he was the number 1 quarterback in fantasy. Also, if you look closely at how last season wrapped up, I think it tells a good story. It seemed like Jim Harbaugh started to loosen things up a bit offensively, was a little bit less reliant on the run game, and they let Justin Herbert throw the ball more, 32 pass attempts per game in the final 3. And with that, he averaged 29.6 points per game in the final 3 games of the season. That's the kind of ability that he possesses. Not totally out on him just yet. Just missing the cut. Jordan Love, Brock Purdy, Bo Nix, like those guys, couldn't fit him on there. That does it for this week's episode. Back at it next week with my top 12 tight ends in fantasy football. Go ahead and visit zoneheadsmedia.com, see everything I've got going on, as well as daily bets in Major League Baseball at Brandon Kravitz at Zoneheads on social. And make sure you sign up to that Zoneheads Facebook group page as well. We will chat again soon, my friends. Back at it next week.